Hello, Kayakus here. Quite some time has passed from the last video, and that's because I was struggling to figure out how to finish Ascendum while still having a 40-hour job. By the time you are watching this video, the final trailer for the game with the release date should already be out. Ascendum is a puzzle platformer game about two twin vessels and their journey through afterlife. The vessels interact with the environment in different ways, and you are controlling both of them at the same time in a single player mode, or you are testing your cooperation skills with your partner in a local co-op. If you like the game, feel free to wishlist it on Steam and try it out, depending on when you are watching this video. It really means a lot. The game has been in development for over 4 years now, and there have been so many things that delayed the game that it's hard for me to believe that it's finally being released. This time for sure, I hope. Anyway, how is it possible that I released a video 2 years ago where I was preparing the game for a release on Steam, and yet here we are now? What is left to do and why does it take so long? And why are there 3 projects that I'm seemingly working on at the same time? For that, we have to go all the way back to the end of 2018. It was the beginning of my game dev university, and I was in the planning stage of my first big team project. At the time, I was really in the mindset of making a casual puzzle game with some meaning and no dialogue, inspired by mostly Journey and Rhyme, but also some childhood co-op games like Fireboy and Water Girl. A slight problem was that till that point I only made smaller games that were usually done in a month or 2, so when I heard that I have 4 months to make a game with 3 other people, I thought that we should just make a complete game and release it on Steam. Little did I know that 2 out of 3 people made some negative progress and were not that helpful, to say it politely. One of these 3 members that actually helped in the development stuck around and continued helping here and there with some level design till today. 4 months passed, and with me doing more than 90% of the project, the game was kinda done in time. I wanted to have 2 characters because I like co-op games, so instead of having a Fireboy and Water Girl, I ended up having 2 twin brothers, one Shadow and one Holy. Mainly because I didn't know how to properly animate fire, as well as the copyright issues, of course. Holy and Shadow were also a better fit to the story, which I'm obviously not going to talk about here. Climbing the mountain is a nice way that many games use to show the journey and the accomplishment, so I kinda went with that as well. The idea was to have simple controls with only movement, jump and shoot keys. Shooting is supposed to be a way for the characters to interact with the level elements, so it can be used to activate puzzle parts, as well as deal damage to some enemies. And yes, some enemies and more platforming was added as well, because it's kinda difficult to get the sense of adventure in a pure puzzle game. The game had around 60 levels of puzzles, ranging from fine to questionable, considering that I never made the puzzle game before at the time. The end result was fine for the time, but I thought that I can do much more. And I decided to continue working on the project until I believe it is ready to be released. Let me know in the comments below if you are interested in me playing the original build, pointing out the weird stuff and just laughing how bad the game used to be. Working on Ascendum, however, didn't really go as planned, since there were new game projects popping up constantly at the university. I managed to work on Ascendum here and there, but nothing really major. This became quite a problem, since not only did I start delaying Ascendum, but also working on many smaller games was increasing my skills exponentially. So much that the quality of the current version of Ascendum started falling behind. This became quite apparent when I finished my diploma project Mendacio, which was done in the same amount of time, 4 months, but the scope and the content and the quality was much higher than the Ascendum back then. This is the moment where the rework phase started. I didn't like any of the art in the game, so I started reworking every single zone. At this time, I also just started doing game art, which meant that my art started improving exponentially as well. So much that by the time I'm done with the last zone of the game, the first one is already outdated. This went on for some time, so much that I reworked the whole first zone around 7 times. During this time, an idea was born that you can also play a game as a single player, where you would control both characters at the same time. Inspired somewhat by the game Brothers, A Tale of Two Sons, quite simple controls for the both characters, as well as the fact that I was mostly playtesting the game alone. It's quite interesting for me to control one character with left and one with the right hand. This of course led to even more reworking and changes, since now the difficulty of the levels has to also consider the single player version. At one point I decided that I'm kinda happy with how everything is, so I made this YouTube channel, posted the trailer and decided that it's time to finish the game. Now we come to a year 2021, where I made 2 devlogs about Ascendum, where I was mostly trying to fix bugs, remove inconveniences by increasing colliders, moving the platforms closer, and so on. I also did some optimization by combining a bunch of assets on one parallax layer to a single big picture, since I really like to make environments with as many separated elements as possible, which is not quite good for performance. I also did some UI improvements, as well as the level menu maps that add some world building in my opinion. I was 100% sure that 2021 will be the year where the game is released, and well, now it's 2023, so that didn't happen obviously. At this time, 2 things happened. University started ramping up since I was slowly preparing for my bachelor's degree, and I started working part-time. And with all of that, I didn't want to spend the now limited free time that I had on fixing bugs for Ascendum when I just started this YouTube channel and my head was full with ideas for my side project Mendasium. I had to release some videos to grow the channel, so it made more sense for me to work on Mendasium for a little bit and make some devlogs, since there is a lot more content to be made over there. So Ascendum was paused for a bit again. Then I got another big project assignment and I made Ruins of Albion. This time with 5 other people in the team and only 1 member that made some negative progress, so overall better. I shared the development of this project in 3 devlogs, which you can check out on my channel if you're interested. The project was going quite well, so I also managed to release it on Steam a month after I finished the assignment. And at this point in time, it has more than $46,000, which I'm quite proud of. Still no signs of Ascendum though, and that's not gonna change in some time because the release of Ruins of Albion was quickly followed by Virium, my bachelor project. My whole university was leading up to this project, so I had to put 120% of effort into this one. And I was still working a 20-hour job at this time, though I managed to finish Virium in 4.5 months and finally get my bachelor's degree. Devlogs for Virium you can also find on the channel, by the way. Same as for Ascendum, I really liked Virium as a concept and there is a lot more to explore over there, so I kinda left it open for the future. Hope it doesn't really fall into the same trap as Ascendum and it gets released like 4 or 5 years from now. Anyway, the moment I got my bachelor's degree, I started working full-time. I also got some mega inspiration for Mendasium, so it would be a waste if I didn't do something about it, considering that the last Mendasium devlog was really long time ago. So Ascendum was still chilling in the corner, waiting for its moment to shine. And after I released 2-part devlog for Mendasium, summing up all of the changes made over 1.5 years, which you can check out on the channel as well, I finally said enough is enough. The university is done, no random new project ideas popping up anymore, and I'm going to finish Ascendum once and for all. Of course, the thing that I started realizing is how little free time you have when you are working a 40-hour job, being independent, handling life problems, and trying to find some time to rest and live a little bit. On top of that, even when there is some free time, half of the time I'm either not in the mood to work on the project or just exhausted and want to rest. Additionally, the project is so old that it's quite annoying to work with it, since it's using Unity 2018 version that still didn't have prefabs working properly. And updating the project right now will just make many more problems, which again doesn't really help with the developing experience. This really slowed down my development, especially that I was slowly falling into the rework loop again, like I did years before, due to the fact that I improved so much from the last time I worked on Ascendum. Some mechanics I no longer liked that much, so they were kind of changed to be a bit better and cleaner, but then some levels didn't work anymore, so they had to be changed as well. At one point I realized that the player characters are quite slow for any type of platforming. Not sure how it took so long to figure that out, but here we are. So I was adjusting the player movement variables as well. I'm quite aware of the fact that you should never change the core mechanics or values like jump height and movement speed when the game is 90% done, but I did it anyway, so I broke more than half of the game in the process. Some levels needed some simple adjustments, but some puzzles couldn't be fixed so easily, so they had to be reworked as well. So overall, quite a fun development experience. And on top of that, I cannot really forget that I should also show some signs of life here on YouTube. Before, I was working only a 20-hour job, so I had enough time for some development and for creating a video here and there. Now, not only do I not have time to make an actual video, but also there is nothing interesting to talk about because I'm doing all of the boring things that are left to finish the game and release it. Some of these exciting things are testing the game and writing down all of the bugs, fixing the bugs found during the playtesting, watching others playtest the game and realizing that some puzzles do not really work how I expected, creating new marketing material, updating the Steam page, struggling with the Steam tax interview so that Steam doesn't take an additional 30% of all of the revenue on taxes just because I was born in a third world country, polishing the UI, adding controller support, realizing that different controllers are not mapped in the same way, then buying Rewired from the asset store since I didn't do that by now for some reason. For real, no sponsor or anything. If you want to have any kind of controller support, just go and buy Rewired because it will handle the input exactly how you would imagine. You would just set up an action and map it to a specific button on the keyboard or the controller, and from there you always access that action to do stuff in the game and you don't have to worry about any of the different controllers or anything. It's so weird to me that this isn't like this by default, but luckily there is this asset that saves lives. There were also some things that were kinda interesting to do, like reworking the keys. Before you just walked or jumped into one of the keys to open something. Now you can carry the key. The key changes to Shadow or Holy depending on who carries it, so there are like two different types of it. And there is a keyhole that requires a certain type of key. Much more interesting than it was before for sure. And I'm a big fan of how you just slap the key in the keyhole. Polishing the animations for the characters so that they don't look so stiff. It's quite funny to me to look at the old footage of the game and see how stiff the animations actually were, adding secrets as well as secret bonus levels that can be unlocked, and reworking the saving system completely to make my life easier. In the end, although I spent a lot more time than I needed on this game, I'm proud of what I made. There are always things that can be improved, of course, but I feel like that can be said for any project. And there are fundamental things that I would probably do differently if I made the game now, but I think that's normal since I feel like I improved a lot from back when I started the university. If you want to support me or if you're just looking for a new game, wishlist Ascendum on Steam and give it a try when it releases if you're interested. it really means a lot. For the future, I will surely make some changes in my planning and development. Problems also come from me wanting to expand on all of the university project ideas, as well as poor planning in my daily routine. There are many developers that are also working 40-hour jobs and managing to work on their games and still make some devlogs and videos, so it's surely possible. I just have to figure out how to do it myself. For now, I'm nervously waiting for the moment where I click that release button. When that is done, I'm going to see which project to do next. So till then, and for those who are interested in buying the game, enjoy the game and I hope you like it. But that's it, I'm done, and until next time.